Yeah. All right. Here we go. One. Ready? One, two, one, two, three, four. Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand. I have done all that I could to see the evil and the good without hiding. You must help me if you can. Doctor, my eyes, tell me what is wrong. Was I unwise to leave them open for so long? 'Cause I have wandered through this world, and as each moment has unfurled, I've been waiting to awaken from these dreams. People go just where they will, and I never notice them until I get this feeling that it's later than it seems. Sing with me. Doctor, my eyes, tell me what you see. I hear their cries. Just say if it's too late for me. Doctor, my eyes, I cannot see the sky. Was this the prize for having learned how not to cry?
If that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will, but we're going to try again. Stand up and sing this, and let's vibrate higher or something.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Here we go.
Welcome to a place where the joy can't be described. Welcome to a place where the love can't be denied. Stand up on your feet, sway to the rhythm of a positive beat. Here in the high vibration zone. Enter at your own risk, the high vibration zone, where the celebration just goes on and on. Buckle up, hold on tight, enjoy the ride, or maybe the flight. Here in the high vibration zone. Welcome to a place where the joint is really jumping. Welcome to a place where you feel the spirit pumping. There is no covering the rides and the thrills that chills are free here in the high vibration zone. Enter at your own risk, the high vibration zone, where the celebration just goes on and on. Buckle up, hold on tight, enjoy the ride or maybe the flight here in the high vibration zone. Here in the high vibration zone. Here in the high vibration zone.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Unity of Music City, the high vibration zone where we do authentic transformation. That's who we are, that's what we do. How many more taglines can we have? Remembering our oneness with all human, whatever. All right. Got a few quick things to tell you. First off, as you know, Reverend D and Judy B are off in the Westland. They're over in Bellevue, Washington this Sunday morning. So how about Ryan Gill over there holding down the piano? Is that awesome? It's like when Mama's away, the boys play. You should have heard him in warm-up this morning. It was quite something. I've got a few quick announcements for you. First off, this Friday, July 27th, Spirituality Unplugged with Frank Castellano. Frank is sitting right there in the middle. Wave your hand there, Frank. Woo! Everybody knows Frank. Let me tell you something. Everywhere I go in this town, someone will say, well, you know, I went to see this spiritualist. I went to see this medium. I went and saw this guy who channeled some people for me. Saw this guy who talked to me about my astrology. And I said, was it Frank Castellano? And they go, yes. How did you know? I said, it's because I'm psychic. I am. So if you want a little bit of that, something, come out this Friday night, July 27th, 6:30 to 9. Bring your spiritual questions for discussion and a potluck dish to share. It's always a fantastic evening, so put that on your calendar for this Friday. The following Friday, August 3rd, Friday and Saturday, August 4th, Intermediate Shamanism with Janice Mickle. It's a Friday evening and all-day Saturday workshop. See Becky Astorita if you have more questions, or look at the... It's always the bass player. Or look at the bulletin. Pick up one of those bulletins if you haven't already for the month of July and take it out with you as you leave. And then finally, one last thing here. Don't forget to put this on your calendar. We've been talking about it. I believe somewhere around here are floating around some, there we are. Crystal's got them. Posters for the John McAndrew concert. You can take some of them with you afterwards if you would like. See Crystal. They're out there. See Charlotte. See somebody. Just go up to somebody after church and ask them about those posters. But Saturday, August 4th, John McAndrew in concert right here. It's going to be awesome, 7 to 9. Special guests include Kenny Malone, Brian Cumming, and the Voices of Unity. Yeah, you gotta come out for this. It's going to be $15 at the door, $12 in advance. You can get your tickets on our website, or you can just wait and get them at the door. It's a win-win situation for us because it's a fundraiser for Unity of Music City. So we love that John is willing to do that for us. Let's stand up and sing again, shall we? You know this song. If you're older than 40, you know this song.
2, 3, 4.
You should see what a lovely, lovely world it would be if everyone learned to live together. It seems to me such an easy thing it should be. ways about it, people gotta be free. Listen, please, listen, that's the way it should be. People everywhere just gotta be free. Shout it from the mountain or out to the sea. No two ways about it, people gotta be free. Listen, please, listen, that's the way it should be. People everywhere just gotta be free.
Ooh, you're learning, you're getting it. I just want you to know that in the first verse of that song, it says you and me, and it should say you and I. And I've sung that for 4 weeks in a row, and I have not mentioned it to now, which is actually, yes, a testament to my spiritual growth. Okay. Just a quick announcement. B, I need to ask you, is Lunch Bunch meeting this week? Lunch Bunch is meeting this week at 11:30 on Wednesday. B, are you leading that Lunch Bunch? Excellent. So you'll want to come out for that during the week. As you know, Wednesday evening classes are not being held through the month of July, but we will be starting in August with You Can Heal Your Life. So I know there'll be a whole lot of folks who want to come out and see and join us for that. As you know, we always gather things for the Dodson Chapel Food Pantry. You guys have been rock stars on those backpacks that you saw almost tripped over as you came in there. But just check out the needs list on the wall out there if there are other things you can pick up at the grocery store for the Dodson Chapel Food Pantry this week. B?
Good morning. Ready for the affirmation? God lives in me. I am already free. Together. God lives in me. I am already free. The Guru Gayatri mantra was developed by the 10th Sikh master and goes like this. Gobinde Makunde, Udare Apare, Haryang Karyang, Nirname Akame. These are the Sanskrit words for the 8 characteristics of God. They translate as the one who sustains, the one who liberates, the one who enlightens, the one who is infinite, the one who destroys, the one who creates, the one who is nameless, the one who is beyond desire. It is said that chanting the mantra for 11 minutes eliminates karmic blocks and past errors, balances brain hemispheres, purifies the magnetic field, and brings compassion and patience. According to the teachings of Yogi Bhajan, whenever you utter it, all facets of God will be right in you. This alignment with the God within you is the source of freedom. From this space of complete liberation, we can initiate change. We can begin to manifest. We can engage in the creation of new life. This is our true nature. There are many paths to divine freedom, and this one mantra is certainly not the only way to access the power of the God within. Perhaps you meditate or light incense or pray a novena. Maybe you walk in nature or sing a special song or dance the dance of the whirling dervishes. It is not important how you align with the God within. It is only important that you do. In fact, it is vital. It is everything. It is freedom.
I invite you to get comfortable in your seat and to close your eyes if you wish. Focus on your breath. Gobinde Makunde, Udare Apare, Haryang Karyang Nirname Akame. Living within you is every aspect of the divine. living within you is every characteristic of God. Living within you is the light and the love, the power and the presence. Living within you is the energy which sustains you, the energy which liberates you. Living within you already is that which will enlighten you and will cause you to touch the infinite. Living within you now is the power which destroys all obstacles, all limitations, all habits and addictions, all negative thoughts, all negative vibrations, all past experience which imprisons you. All of that which keeps you from freedom is destroyed by a power already living within you. Living within you is the power of creation, the power to create a new life, a new perception, a new perspective. Living within you is the power of the Creator and the creation. Living within you is the energy that says, "Let there be light." Living within you is the pure divinity that transcends identity, ego, comparison, personality, talent, the perception of lack, the perception of separation. Living within you is the image and energy of God. Observe, perceive, connect with, melt into that energy now. Gobinde Makunde Udare Apare Hariyang Karyang Nirname Akame. Every aspect of the divine lives within you now. There is never a moment when this is not true. Remembering this is what allows us to say, I am free. I am unlimited. There are no chains that bind me.
I
I am not the things my family did, and I am not the voices in my head, and I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I'm not the skin on the outside. I am not my age, I'm not my race, my soul inside is all light. I am divinity defined, and I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
That was perfect. That was perfect. I asked Ryan last week, I said, I don't know if you've made a decision about the special music or not, but I'd really, really love to have that India Ari song, I Am Light. And he looked at me and said, I've been singing that as I come out of meditation for the last 2 weeks. Or to get me into meditation, one or the other. So it was perfect. It was perfect because it perfectly fits with what I want to talk to you about today. I've got 3 stories and 3 steps for you today. It's the sermon law of 3s, right? All good sermons have 3 points, isn't that right? It was like, what was it? How is a sermon like a steer? A point here, a point there, and a lot of bull in between. It's what, yeah. This was my father's old joke. So I've got 3 stories and 3 steps. So simple, you don't even need a PowerPoint. As a matter of fact, please take my name down off of there. Any other, there we go, there we go. That's beautiful, that's beautiful. 3 stories and 3 steps. First story. The first story I want to tell you is a story about my father. My father was born, I'm not going to tell you his whole life story, but I'm going to start with where he was born. He was born August 18th, 1942, in Maryville, Tennessee. He was the fifth of 6 children. He was the second boy. From the moment that he was born, he was a golden child. You know those golden children. Perhaps you were one, or maybe you've known one. It's really bad if your sibling was one. That's not always so good. But my father was one of those golden children. When his mother was pregnant with him, she told everyone that the Holy Spirit had spoken to her and told her that she was carrying a holiness preacher. Now, I don't know if you grew up in the kind of church where you used the phrase holiness preacher. But if you did, then you know what that means. Am I right, Sherry? Yeah. That's the top of the top right there. You can have an itinerant preacher. You can have a circuit preacher. You can have an interim preacher. But a holiness preacher, now, that's the top of the top, right? And so the night of August 18th, 1942, I'm fairly certain a very bright star rose over Maryville, Tennessee, as my father was born. He heard this all of his life, and paired with that information and the fact that he had 3 older sisters and the fact that this was a time when we were misled enough to believe that women should wait on men, right? He was cared for by his sisters. Every need that he had. They washed his clothes, they ironed his clothes, they polished his shoes, they laid his clothes out for him on his bed before he went to school in the morning. They fed him, right? They did his dishes, they took care of him. That was their job, take care of Davy, right? Now, they weren't wealthy. He didn't have a lot of wealth privilege. They were hill people in East Tennessee, and he had to get up on winter mornings in the cold, in the dark, and he had to go get the wood to bring it in and start the fire in the stove in the kitchen that was the only source of heat in the house. So he wasn't spoiled, but he was spoiled, right? And he knew from the beginning, from the very first days of his existence on this planet, that the whole world was on his side. Everyone was on Dave's side, right? By the time he hit junior high school, his only job was sports. And he was athletically gifted, natural athlete. By the time he was a senior in high school, he was the captain of the baseball team, captain of the football team, captain of the basketball team, senior class president, and voted best looking, right? In other words, if you look up big man on campus in the dictionary, right, there is a picture of my father. He was approached his senior year by a scout from the Pittsburgh Pirates who offered him a contract to play professional baseball. And he probably would have gone and done that, except early in his senior year of high school, his mother died in his arms. The same mother who had told him all of his life that God told her he was going to be a holiness preacher. So my father turned down the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he headed off to Trevecca College, what is now Trevecca Nazarene University. Back then it was Trevecca Nazarene College, or as we used to call it, Tobacco Nicotine University. Did you ever hear that one, Sherry? Yes, okay. He headed off to Trevecca College and immediately became voted freshman class president. I think the freshman class was probably 12 people in 1960, but that doesn't matter. Freshman class president, and he started dating the most beautiful woman on campus, my mother. And it didn't hurt that she knew how to play the piano. Because in 1960, if you were going to become a preacher, you hit the jackpot if you fell in love with a woman who played the piano. I am not going to make any comments about Reverend Denise and Dr. B. All right? But know that that was the jackpot that you hit. So he met my mother. They fell in love. They got married. And they proceeded to have 2 of the most adorable little girls you have ever seen in your life. They were young. They were poor. They were scrimping pennies. And yet, the world was still on Dave's side. He was starting a ministerial career. He got a little church, and then he got a little bigger church, and then he got a little bigger church, and then he got a little bigger church, and he was really heading for great success in his field. People loved him. He was charismatic. He could hold a room in the palm of his hand. He could tell a joke. He was used to being the center of attention. He was good, everything. He was the golden boy still. And then August 7th, 1966 happened. August 7th, 1966 was an event that I'm not going to tell you about. But all you need to know is this. My father was deeply betrayed by his closest friend. Deeply betrayed. And all you need to know is that somewhere in the center of his being, there was a rift that happened, and he didn't know what to do with it. The world had always been on Dave's side, and all of a sudden, it wasn't. And he didn't know what to do. He was 24 years old, and for the first time in his life, he actually thought about committing suicide. He didn't know what to do with this. He was completely unprepared. Those of us who were not golden children, we are much better prepared for those events in life, right? He was not prepared for this betrayal. He moved past it. He healed as much as he could. He moved past it. He and his wife had a third daughter, my little sister. She's not quite as adorable, but whatever. Had a third daughter. They moved out of state, moved to different places. But you know what? Dave never could let go of the fact that he had been betrayed. And for a golden boy to feel betrayal, it's like a mathematical equation. Golden boy plus betrayal equals victim. It equals victim, right? And so what happened is that he proceeded to go about his life and began to engage in self-defeating behavior, self-destructive behavior. His marriage broke up about 10 years later. He stopped being a minister. He went off and tried to make his way in the world. He married 4 more times, 3 different women. He married one of them twice. Right? Had a lot of different odd jobs. Finally, by the end of his life, the last 12 years or so, he married my last stepmother, fantastic woman. All of my stepmothers were. They could be like a baseball team, but nonetheless, she was a wonderful woman, and she helped my father have the last 12 years of his life in relative happiness and relative joy. Last year, she asked if anybody in our family wanted his desk. My father passed away in October of 2013. And she asked if anybody wanted his desk, and I said, of course, yes, I do. He's had that desk since before I was born. As a matter of fact, written inside the drawer is a scrawled little, "I love you, Papa," by one of those adorable daughters. But at any rate, so I wanted his desk, and I drove to East Tennessee to get the desk, and while I was there, she said, "Do you want any of his journals?" And I said, well, of course I do. Let me give you this one little side note. If you have children, leave them something in your handwriting. It's the most powerful thing you can leave them. Just write anything. So I picked up about 5 of his journals. Now, my father's journals, you know, I like big fancy journals like this. My father was the kind, he would go to the dollar store and get those little, 2 for $1, 50 sheet ring binders, right? And he would just write. He'd just get a new one when he was finished with the old one, and he'd put the date at the top, and he would keep writing. And inside these journals would be everything from a little budget for an upcoming trip, some kind of list, what he needed to do tomorrow, and his deep thoughts, a poem that he just wrote, an essay that he would write. It was a wonderful, eclectic combination of who he is and who he was, right? So I'm looking through this, enjoying this so much. My father loved making lists. You'd turn the page from a poem, and all of a sudden there'd be a list of every car I've ever owned, right? Do you all remember Plymouth Dusters? Yes, that right there, baby blue, Plymouth Duster. Every place I've ever lived, every country I've ever visited, there would be a list every few pages. And I turn the page of one of these journals, and I see a list that says, the 5 worst days of my life. Number 1, August 7th, 1966. This was the journal that started in April of 2013, about 5 months before he passed away. It was 47 years later. And following this list on the next page was an essay that he wrote about the sense of betrayal that came from that day, that he was still carrying with him, the unfairness, what had happened to him. Right? If you had asked me while my father was alive, during my adult years, if you had asked me to come up with 2 words that described my father, I could have come up with a bucket full. Charismatic, intelligent, funny, well-read, charming, handsome, any number, athletic, any number. But if you'd asked for only 2, these would have been the 2 I would have given you. Proud, victim. Those would have been the 2 words that I would have given you. Because that became the defining characteristic of his life. He could never let it go. He could never move beyond. Here's the second story. The second story is about Eeyore. This is Eeyore. Eeyore is actually a symbol. I teach literature, so I can do symbolism. Eeyore is a symbol. You can let Eeyore stand for whatever you would like, but my recommendation for the purposes of what we're getting ready to talk about is that you let Eeyore stand for you. I'm going to let Eeyore stand for me. This is the story of this creature right here, the person we are born as, right? We are born as a person, probably not August 18th, 1942, but whatever your birthday is. And we come in and we take on this identity. And we're given a name, and we have experiences, and we have things happen to us. And we begin to believe that all of these things that happen to us are who we are. We start to believe, I am Eeyore. I am the child born to these parents. I am the person who experienced the betrayal. I am the person who feels the guilt, who feels the shame, who feels the pain. I am the person who has gone through all of these past experiences. That's who we begin to identify with. And what we never realize, what we forget all along the way, is that this is who we are. This is who we are. We are the divine light. We are the God within. It is who we really are. I want to read you a little passage from Don Miguel Ruiz's Juniors, The 5 Levels of Attachment. It's a short little bit. As we increase our attachment to our identity, let me stop there. Dave, the golden boy, the one that the world is on my side. Everything works for me. No one betrays me. I like that. I'm attached to it. The problem with being a golden child is the more closely you attach to your identity because you like it. It's a good one, right? As we increase our attachment to our identity, knowledge and consensus become very important to us, to the point where they give us meaning in life. So we construct the mask of our identity by becoming the embodiment of our acquired knowledge in the form of our passion. This is a mask based on our preferences in life. This level of attachment can feel great when your team wins or when things are going your way. But as life shows up, what goes up must come down, and no one wins all the time. That is why suffering inevitably occurs when you're attached at this level. We won't always be able to get what we want, but instead of having a preference and moving on if things don't go our way, at this level, we have become attached. In other words, my father was very, very attached to his identity as this golden boy, and he liked it. He liked it, and he stepped more and more into it. And when that betrayal came, when that pain came, when that hurt came, he didn't know what to do with it. And that's where suffering happens. Suffering is the lack of freedom. You've heard that the opposite of love is not hate, right? The opposite of love is fear. I contend with you today that the opposite of freedom is suffering. The opposite of suffering is freedom. And that is what we all want. That is the thing, the one thing that really brings us true unity. Because what every human being on this planet wants is freedom. Every human being wants freedom. Doesn't matter what race you are, what ethnicity, what your country of origin is, what language you speak. It doesn't matter. What you want is freedom. What I want is freedom. And as long as we identify with being a golden child, or with being a broken child, or with being a grieving child, as long as we identify with whatever we believe makes up our experience, we will stay in suffering. Freedom will elude us until we remember who we are. My father was none of those things. He was not a baseball player. He was not a preacher. His little Eeyore suit was. But he was a divine child. And because he couldn't remember this, he lived for 47 years in the pain of this. All he had to do was step out of it. That's all he had to do. Yesterday, I was listening to NPR, the little TED Talks thing. Y'all ever listen to that, where they do the TED Talks? And there was a guy, apparently he was a neurobiologist or something like that. He was on there, and he was talking about what they're learning about the brain, and he was talking about, I picked it up right in the middle, so I didn't catch it all, but it sounded like he was talking about the fact that children who are not touched before the age of 2, if they don't get loving touch before the age of 2, that it actually causes their gastrointestinal system to develop differently, right? And so they were talking about the impact of the brain and how it creates and how all these things are connected. And so the interviewer was asking the neurobiologist, so he said, so what you're telling me is that when someone touches me, it's actually also happening in my brain. And the neurobiologist said, no. It's only happening in your brain. It's only happening in your brain. That's the only place where it's happening. Right? Your pain and your suffering are only happening in your human mind, in your human experience. It's not also. It's not both and. It's only. It's only. And who you really are is a place where that doesn't exist, where there is no pain. The beauty of this, for me, as I have stepped into this, leaned into this more and more, the beauty of this for me is that when I do feel pain, because I do, and because we are human, and because we will forget day after day after day, all I have to do is go, remember who you are, remember who you are. You know what? The unbearable grief becomes bearable. The overwhelming betrayal becomes, ooh, isn't that interesting what they chose to do? Right? Because it doesn't touch this. It doesn't touch who I am. I'm going to give you 3 steps here. I'm going to give you 3 steps for stepping out of Eeyore and moving into the freedom of I am. Are you ready? These are the 3 steps that will change your life. You will never be the same. This is the secret of the universe right here. You're going to want to write these down. Step number 1. Remember who you are. I learned who I am. Now, I've been hearing it for years and 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 probably lifetimes, quite frankly. I've been hearing who I was for a very long time. I happened to kind of really recognize it, get it, and see it, and connect with it when I started listening to a teacher named Muji, and I want to read you something that Muji writes here. It's a little bit lengthy, but I think you'll enjoy it. For most people, mental activity has become compulsive, an addiction and an affliction, a chattering voice that simply won't stop. Spiritual development should not be done mentally. It is not just repeating, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? With the hope that an answer or object will appear as the divine self. You have to actually look. And do not hold a preconceived idea of what you may find. The inquiry has to be fresh each time. Don't wait or harbor expectations, not even expectations based on the memory of what happened the last time you inquired or of that beautiful glimpse that you had some time ago. No, you have to be fresh. That is why my advice is to remain only in that timeless neutrality of awareness. Your neutrality will neutralize everything and bring it back to its fundamental, essential nature. What will happen as you let go of obsessive control is that delusions will disappear, as will the fog of depression, the sense of displacement, worry about the future, the fear of death, the fear of life. All of this will be history when we embrace the full potential of our being. Only grace can bring you to this freedom, to this inner tranquility. And grace won't keep you waiting. Listen to that. Grace won't keep you waiting. In nature, you may wait for rain. Are you like that? Like dry land, waiting for rain? There is something you don't have to wait for because it is already here, and it is at the root of who you are. This is the good news. You have to wait for everything else, to get married, to have children, to get a good job, to get paid your wages. You even have to wait for dinner. But grace is something you don't have to wait for. St. Francis of Assisi says, what you are looking for is already where you are looking from. Rumi says, knocking on a door, it opens. I've been knocking from the inside. Both are big clues and profound pointers to the truth of who we are. So why does it seem like a riddle? Because we just cannot believe that it could possibly be so simple. It only becomes supremely difficult because we want to achieve this with the unstable and changing mind. We can't get there through here. Remember who you are. Step one. Step two. Affirm who you are as many ways as you can find, as often as possible. Affirm who you are as many ways as you can find, as often as possible. Well, I've started meditating every day. Good for you, not often enough. I set a dinger on my phone so that it goes off every hour on the hour, and every hour on the hour I remember to be mindful. Good for you, not often enough. As often as you can, every way you can find. Immerse yourself in it. Live in it. When I wake up in the morning, before I start my coffee, I light my incense because that's one of my reminders. And I forget. I look for ways. I put a crystal in my pocket. Whether or not you think it has any power whatsoever, it's beside the point. If I put a crystal in my pocket that says, remember that you speak the truth and you are the voice of the divine, boom, then that's what it means to me. And I carry that energy with me everywhere I go. And that is my constant reminder. Affirm who you are as many ways as you can find, as often as possible. every day, every day, every day. Well, I go to Unity once a week. That is so not enough. That is so not enough. If I have heard it once, I've heard Reverend D say it 1,000,000 times. You have to actually do it. You have to actually do it. You have to want it more than you want anything else. Because nothing else matters. Nothing else is meaningful. Everything else is just pain and emptiness without that. But once you get over there and you remind yourself and you remember who you are, it doesn't make all of those wonderful experiences go away. It makes them different. It just makes them different. You come from a totally different place with them. A totally different place. Remember who you are. Affirm who you are as many ways as you can find, as often as possible. Here's step 3. Are you ready? This is the one. Repeat steps 1 and 2. That's it. Because you will forget. I don't care if you light 72 sticks of incense in a day. Between incense sticks number 70 and 71, you will forget. You will slide back in. It's like the human experience is this huge magnet. And we have to step into the place where we realize that we are immune to the magnetic field of that. We live in the magnetic field of this. Right? Because it will continue to pull us back in, because we'll try to think our way into it. How many times have you sat down in meditation and said, okay, I need to think about awareness. I need to think about pure consciousness. Right? Right? You can't get there from here. You can't get there from here. I told you that I had 3 stories. I told you the story of my father. I told you the story of Eeyore, or you, whichever one you want. It could have been Tigger. You can see yourself as Tigger if you want. Or perhaps Piglet or Pooh. But here's the 3rd story. This last spring, I had an incredible opportunity. I mean, an incredible opportunity. Along with, through something at school, through some folks at school, I had the opportunity to go visit Riverbend Maximum Security Prison and to go onto death row and to visit one of the death row pods. And I got the chance to actually sit down for 2 hours and speak with these 8 men who live on Tennessee's death row. Pretty much everyone on death row in the state of Tennessee is at Riverbend Maximum Security Prison. We are one of the few states, one of the only states that I know of, that has levels of death row. So there's an A level and a B level and a C level. Everyone who comes in on the C level, and that's total lockdown. But as you kind of exhibit good behavior and prove yourself and meet certain benchmarks, they'll move you up to level B, get a little bit more freedom, and then finally level A. Level A, death row prisoners pretty much move around the prison fairly freely, at least in their pod, obviously. And so these are the men that we sat down and spoke with. One of whom, and I won't go into all of the details of the reasons why they're there. First off, anyone who's on Tennessee's death row is there because they've been convicted of murder. Now, whether or not they committed that, that's a different story. Most of the men there, some of them very freely opened up and admitted to what they had done, spoke about it in that way. Others, their cases in question. We didn't get to talk about the details of their case very much because if you're on death row and the sentence has not been carried out, then you are at some level of appeal. So you can't really talk about the case that much. But we got the chance to talk to these guys. Let me tell you something. The experience of going into a maximum security prison, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that or not, but it's pretty, it'll serious you up real quickly, right? So we go in, we're patted down, we're checked, they let us know how to behave. You go beyond one huge 15-foot fence that's got razor wire at the top of it, and there are two of those about 12 feet apart from each other. You go into the one, and they close the gate behind you. That makes you swallow hard. I'll tell you, that makes you swallow hard. And you're standing there in this little no man's land, if you will, and then they open the second one, and you walk in, and you are in maximum security prison. And there are guards with us, and they check us, and they walk with us the whole step of the way. But we got into this pod, and we got to talk to these guys, and there was this one gentleman there. You may have heard of him. His name is Abu Ali Abdur Rahman. Abu's case is in question. There's a great deal of question about whether or not he should be there at all. I will say this. I don't believe that a church's platform is the place to get political, but this is not political to me. I don't believe any of those men should be living on death row. Abu, there is a question about whether he was even present when he did this, when this happened, this event happened. As I sat there and talked to him, I asked him about his day. What your day was like. When do you wake up? And he said, well, you know, we live in these little cells, and we saw one of the cells, and by the way, I couldn't bring myself to step into it, right? I looked into it, but it frightened me. He said, our cell doors don't open until 7 a.m. He said, I get up at 5 a.m. every morning, and I spend 2 hours in prayer, meditation, and yoga. That's what I do for 2 hours. And you could tell. Sitting in the presence of Abu was like sitting in the presence of the Dalai Lama. It was just a peace that just emanated from him. It changed my life to meet Abu. Changed my life. And as he told me about how his day started, I said to him, you know, I believe that the experience we have as humans is an internal one. And the more work I do internally, the more I evolve as a human being. And in a strange way, it seems like you may have more access to that, more time for that, than a lot of folks. I was afraid of saying that. I didn't want to hint that he had a good thing going on, right? But I wanted to get that idea across, and he immediately said, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He said, let me tell you something. They only imprison my body. They don't imprison me. Mm-hmm. And he said, I am freer than most of the people walking around outside of these walls. And it gave me chills when he said that, because in that moment, he was freer than I was, because he got that. He understood it. He came from that place. I had to hug him before we left. But let me just tell you this. That's not the end of this story. Before we left, there were 14 people from Vol State, 12 students, 2 faculty members, and there were 8 prisoners. And the chaplain of death row said, before we leave, there's something we like to do before people leave when they've gotten a chance to visit us, if you don't mind. We stood in a circle. We didn't stand in a circle with the Vol State people over here and the prisoners over there. We were all intermingled. We held hands. As we held hands, the chaplain said a prayer. And then when the chaplain finished praying, Abu, in this death row pod, starts singing, Precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on, help me stand. Right? I mean, just telling it again, I'm getting chills all over again. You should have been there. Oh, my word, you should have been there. It was the greatest revival service I've ever been in, right? Just resonating through this prison. Standing up on the stairs, I looked up and I could see the guards who were there to guard us. By the way, they look like they're ready to go to war. They're a paramilitary unit, basically. They were standing up on the stairs, and I saw them giggling, and I saw them making jokes with each other, maybe some of them because they were uncomfortable, maybe some of them because they felt something and they didn't want to show it because it wasn't macho, I'm not sure. But I looked up there and I thought, you poor guys, that man is free. that man is free. And you don't get it. Freedom is available now. Living within you is every characteristic of the divine. Living within you is pure and total freedom now. Grace does not make you wait. Namaste.
So freedom is available if we wake up. We didn't talk about this second song, but of course, it's perfect. If you like old soul music like I do, then you'll probably recognize this one. Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed, and no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war and poverty. Here we go. Wake up, all you healers, time to heal a new land. Feel a new vibration, feel the power in your hands. When we lift it up, we know we can do our part. You know you can help us know who we really are. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me. Wake up, all the teachers, time to teach a new way. And maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. And when you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. And wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. And I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out. They do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na, 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Yeah. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me.
ways we access immediate freedom is by staying in the flow, and it's that wonderful time when we get to give back to our spiritual community through the giving of our tithes and offerings. If you'll take those gifts in your hands and say the offering blessing with me, please. I live in the midst of infinite abundance. I give freely and fearlessly to life, and life gives back to me. Please join us on the sacred walk of abundance.
Give myself permission to be happy and free. It's a spiritual condition that serves others and me. I give myself permission to be happy and free.
We live in divine joy. We live in divine freedom. We are already free. We thank you, God. We thank you, Spirit, for being inside of us, working through us, as us. We thank you for these tithes and these gifts and these offerings, knowing that as we give, so shall we receive. And that everything we give comes back, heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, for that's the law, and so it is.
Love wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. Wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be.